Exciting edition of American Warrior Radio, the place to be for news, notes, interviews, and current events for all issues military and veteran related. If you or someone you know has ever worn the uniform of the U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, or National Guard or Reserves, you've come to the right place. American Warrior Radio, right here on the Talk to Me station, AM 1300 WMEL, sponsored by AVET Project. Folks, this program is all about supporting our troops and their families, both past and present. So please, get comfortable, grab a cup of coffee, maybe a pencil and paper, because you may want to jot down a note or two. We're always efforting to bring you information that you can use. But with that said, let's roll down the runway and get this show off the ground. As you all know, my name is Garen Cohn. I'm an Air Force veteran, a retired legal advocate for veterans, and founder of AVET Project, but I never fly through the airwaves alone.
Good morning. I'm Glenn McGuffey, manager of your Brevard County Veteran Services team. And as Garen alluded to, we've got an exciting show for you. We've got another exceptional guest today.
We sure do.
And we're going to be talking about a whole schedule of legal-related courses that you can attend for, what's our favorite word?
Free. Yeah. F-R-E-E, folks. You heard it here.
F-R-E-E. And then we'll give you some updates on veterans events and an update on what's going on at your clinic out here. So with that, I'll turn it over to Garen for the introductions.
Nothing would please me more, Glenn. We have with us in the studio today on American Warrior Radio none other than Britta Hawkins, who is the founder of the Space Coast Community Law School. Say hello, Britta.
Hey, how are you, Garen?
We're doing great. Thank you so much for spending your Saturday with us here on WMEL and American Warrior Radio. We wanted to bring you back in because even last year, I think you did a segment with John Harper.
Yes, I sure did. We talked about the spring term.
Well, before we get into Space Coast Community Law School, which is free.
Which is free.
Which is free.
Sleep at the switch here.
Exactly. Let's talk a little bit about yourself. Give our audience, our listeners, a little thumbnail sketch of your bio. Tell us where you're from, because you're not a natural-born American, right?
Right. Now, I was born and raised in Austria. I came over here basically at around, I was about 25, with some English language skills, but not really too good.
Now, in Austria, did they teach, was that on the curriculum, English? Not so much?
No, not the way our system was set up in the old country, really.
So you came over here, and you're at the age of 25. What were your aspirations? What did you want to do?
Well, I just didn't want to go back, basically, and I just wanted to have my own life and wanted to follow my dream. So I met a wonderful man. We got married. I worked first. Then I started school when my son started school. Went to BCC, UCF, and ended up in law school.
Well, you were mentioning when you went to BCC, again, English as a second language for you. Tell that little story.
Well, I attended, Brevard County, BCC. So I'd never written anything in English. So at that point, I was 28, never written an essay, let alone knew what it looked like. So I attended the first class of English class and of Com 1, and the teacher walks in and says, well, you already know all the grammar and everything from high school. And I was like, ooh, I'm in trouble.
Your hand goes up, not me.
Not me, right. And the interesting thing was the big eye I got from the teacher was when I went down to talk to him after class, and I asked him to write down journal because he had told us to keep a journal, and I didn't know what a journal was nor how to spell it. And so I had him write it down and went home and asked my husband what it is.
Interesting. So you went to BCC to start your educational career after your son went into school, and then you followed that up. What are some of your educational accomplishments?
Well, I went to UCF and graduated with honors there, and then since I did so good, I was encouraged to go to law school, Florida A&M. I went there, did wonderful there, graduated with honors there as well, and then I ended up at the Public Defender's Office where I worked for a year and learned how the system actually works.
And I would think the public defender's office as a starting point would be a busy place, yes?
Oh my God. It was very busy, but it was good to learn the side that the people generally don't understand. Like my husband was like, well, how can you defend those people? They did it. Well, no, we don't know. And so we have to make sure that the system works. And that's where I think everything started. And from there, I do now Social Security disability law, and I again help people against the government.
Right, fighting for, you're an advocate, a legal advocate, you're an attorney helping folks secure their benefits.
Yes.
But what other areas of practice, of your law practice? I noted on your bio. By the way, where can people go? Your law firm is, what's the name again?
I work for Sinfronia, Telfer, Rita, Faraday, and Anderson. That's a well-established firm up in Titusville. They've been there for 30, 40 years, and the firm practices several different areas: personal injury, medical malpractice, criminal, family law, and
But your specialty
my
is Social
specialty,
Security.
I focus mainly on Social Security disability because it's just something I really, really care about.
Making sure that those folks that are entitled to that benefit get the benefits they deserve.
Absolutely, and that includes veterans, and a lot of times veterans don't know they can also file for Social Security disability even though they get VA disability payments.
Well, that's a good point, something that Glenn and I are always interested in. So your law firm, if a veteran comes to you and they're seeking Social Security disability, maybe they have a VA disability rating already, maybe they don't, are you able to advise them on how to go about that?
Well, since the VA rules are quite different, that's a different animal. I can't really help them with the VA stuff, but it does help with the Social Security case. So.
Yeah, and as I was telling you before we came on the air, we run into a lot of veterans that I'm helping, of course, with the VA disability type claims, and they're not aware, or they've got misinformation about that they can go ahead and apply for Social Security disability also. And if it's for a VA service-connected disability, folks, there is no trade-off. You can get all your Social Security disability and all your VA disability
Correct.
compensation. Now, if you get into the pension, known as aid and attendance for a lot of the old people around here that are in nursing homes or assisted living facilities, now that's a money-based thing, and there is a trade-off, but
A dollar for dollar type.
dollar for dollar trade-off where there's a lot of bad information out there telling people, well, if you've got Social Security disability, you can only have that. You can't have both that and a VA service-connected disability, and that's absolutely wrong.
That's right, and I make sure that anytime somebody calls in with questions, my assistant or we always talk, and all that is free. We give free consultations and talk on the phone multiple times a day, where I just try to make sure that whoever has any questions gets them answered correctly.
Well, before we get to Space Coast Community Law School, at your practice, your full-time job here, what's the number somebody can reach you at?
Area code 321-269-6833. That's our firm's number, and also I'm allowed to use it for the Space Coast Community Law School because since it's not a funded really, or not fully funded, I need to use all the resources I can get. And because my firm, or the firm I work for, also very much supports the Space Coast Community Law School, therefore they allow me to do all the printing, use the phones, and
Outstanding. And I also want to extend some appreciation from AVET Project to your firm for supporting us in our endeavors, Veterans Day celebration, and actually throughout. And as a matter of fact, on the Space Coast Community Law School website, you'll see that AVET Project and American Warrior Radio, and by proxy WMEL, is a media sponsor, and we're out there to promote this law school, which we really should talk about.
Yeah, just give us a little reason as to the background on how and why you started this Space Coast Community Law School.
Well, I had this idea, and I felt that there was so much information missing out there, and I started digging. It all started, I wanted to do a Social Security seminar just to educate the people of the do's and don'ts. And then it just got bigger and bigger, and I found out that our law firm, about 25 years ago, a little more, did something similar to that. And so I approached the bosses and asked them, can I do it? And they said, sure, go ahead. And so that's how it just ended up being the Space Coast Community Law School.
And I know there's a great need for that out there, because the same thing exists on the veteran side of the house, as you indicated. It's kind of a horse of another color, if you will, but the misinformation out there and the non-information out there is startling to me.
Absolutely, yes. And what I'm trying to do is get the community and the lawyers together in a forum where they can just chat. In our law school, we start at 6, have a break at 7, from 7 to 7:10, so you can actually ask a question, or at least you get to know this person, and then contact them later. Or, if that's not the particular law you need, at least it gives you guidance when you need an attorney early enough, so it's not just damage control for the attorney, because we are limited by what you bring to us with a question or with a problem. So it's always good to realize, and a lot of people don't realize, when they ought to go and invest the $150 for some of the initial consults. And then that's all. That might be all they need, and then resolve the rest later. But by the time things escalate, then at that point, then a lot of times they need an attorney, and then they have to pay an arm and a leg for it at times.
And by doing this Space Coast Community Law School outreach, you're providing some good background, fundamental information about all kinds of topics of law, and kind of, whetting their appetite to find out more. However, anybody that attends, that registers online and attends the law schools, which are free.
Right, the free seminars.
Which are free. They're not going to be propositioned by the instructors or any lawyers.
Oh, no. There is no advertising allowed. All this law school, Space Coast Community Law School, is for information and educational purposes. If you want the business card of an attorney, you have to approach the attorney. We're not doing any advertising at all. And I ask the speakers to really just give us an outline. I make a handout for everybody. And then it's really just the bare bones law, not the particulars. No particular questions are going to be answered. It's all just in the grand scheme of things, because it's all based in common sense, really, a lot of times. And people ought to know that.
And you do it so well, because at the beginning of the semester, at the beginning of the term, you provide the notebooks, and it's a 3-ring binder. They can keep it from course to course and develop their own little mini law library.
Right, yes, we do have, for each seminar, we have a handout. Sometimes it's just a couple of pages, and you also are given a pen and note paper so you can take notes. Now, some attorneys or some judges are more elaborate, and they make a big outline, and with that, you can do your own stuff. They are really workable information there.
Well, that's outstanding, and I see that one of your supporters is the Brevard Bar Foundation, which is a great support. That in itself is like the good housekeeping seal of approval, I should think.
Good point.
And what other supporters do you have for this school?
Well, we have Sinfronia Telfer, Rita Faraday, and Anderson, like we talked about. The AVET project is also a great supporter. And then I have Legal Aid. Brevard County Legal Aid gives the speakers pro bono hours. And the Bar Foundation, who took over the funding, the Brevard Bar Foundation took over the funding, and Florida Bar Foundation got me going. They gave me an initial grant. And then we have the Florida Design Group. They help me with the website. We also have, we have another sponsor.
Obviously,
Luke and Associates. Luke and Associates and Cooper Chiropractic. They are also sponsors for the law school, and they some of them give continuously, so that I can pay for the rent of the room or
Right.
the security guards.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment, because out by you, Glenn, by your office is where this takes place, right?
Yeah, it's over in the courthouse somewhere, I think.
This term, we are going to be in the Moore Justice Center at 2825 Judge Frank Jameson Way in Viera. That's at the courthouse in the jury assembly room. And we start September 13th and meet every on consecutive Thursday evenings from 6 to 8. And yeah.
Now, so the Bravo building is in the Viera Government Complex, but the jury room, the courthouse, is across the street, right, Glenn?
Yeah, and I had a question. Do people have to enroll with y'all for the entire course, or can they cherry pick courses that they want to take
They
out of
can
it?
sign up for whatever class, for whatever seminar they want, and if they're not registered and they still show up, if we have room and if we have handouts, everybody's welcome. This is intended to be free for everybody, so that all you need to do is spend your time.
And it's so worthwhile. But let's talk about what some of the topics are for this term at the Space Coast Community Law School. You've got a whole range of subjects. Let's just start with the top. On the 13th, which is coming up quickly, folks, first, go to the website and register. As Glenn mentioned, you can actually check off the classes that you plan on attending, so that you, as the administrator of all this, have some idea of how many people are going to be there.
Right. Our website is www.spacecoastcommunitylawschool.com or www.sccls.com.
SCCLS will get you there.
Yes.
SCCLS.com.
And
you ask a little bit of information, just their name, dates they plan on attending.
Right. I just want to know your name, a contact phone number, or an email. If you email us to our community law school, all one word, at yahoo.com. That's all we need. We need to know which seminars you're interested in. And yeah, that's all the information we gather. We do keep your email so that we can then send you for the next term
A reminder.
any reminders
Oh,
what's
that's
coming
good.
up.
So kind of go through a few of the things that are coming up here in terms of topics.
Okay, well, I was approached by the Florida Bar Association whether I would try to educate the voters on judicial merit retention, since there's an exceptional number of judges on the ballot in November. And so we're going to do judicial merit retention, and that is taught by Richard Levenstein and Judge John Murphy. So
We
that's
like
going
Judge
to
Murphy.
Yep, I know him well.
Well, he happens to head up the Veterans Court, which is a super important part for us.
Great.
And so he's going to be giving some information on judicial merit retention. What exactly is that? Just a thumbnail sketch?
Well, that's just, how do you vote for judges? How do you get to know a judge? How do you find out anything about the judges?
Well, that's excellent, because I don't see them advertising on TV or the radio or
They're not
anywhere
allowed.
else. And it used to be, I think, that they had who was the incumbent listed on your ballot, and most people voted for the incumbent because they didn't know anybody else anyway.
Right. I mean, I was approached on several occasions during the law school. How do you vote for a judge? And, you know,
Excellent
I mean,
question.
now it's going to get answered.
That's
Outstanding.
excellent.
Know the facts. So that's on the first, well, this coming
First
Thursday,
seminar.
the 13th, right? You followed up the following week with the role of the Supreme Court.
Yes, we're going to talk about the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, as well as the state Supreme Courts and their various names. But what they really do, how does it affect you?
And you've got a judge that's going to be giving that lesson?
Yes, we're going to have Judge David Silverman. He has been a strong supporter. He has been in almost every term. He taught something. And
He's a
we
very
really
good
like
speaker.
him.
I was at one of his teachings last time. Okay, and then we follow that up the following week. Again, this is every Thursday
Every Thursday.
from 6 to 8 with a little break in between.
Right. Right. We're going to talk about consumer law and foreclosure, and James Torres, who is very good in the field. He likes to be involved in the community. He also does a lot of free pro bono work. So he talks about the consumer law foreclosure, and the consumer law involves credit card debt and that kind of thing. And also he's going to venture into the newer updates and stuff, what the status of what's going on with foreclosures right now.
Well, I think that would be of timely interest to everybody, particularly with the growing problem with identity theft. And of course, foreclosure is a growing issue also that's not going away anytime soon. And then that seems to be followed by immigration law, a hot topic, especially if you live in Arizona, although I think Florida's been talking up trying to do the same kind of law here. So
right, I will try to present what it really takes to become a resident here and come to this country, you know, in the grand scheme of things, how Florida is affected by immigration in the grand scheme as well. And then we're going to talk about the criminal law panel. I'm going to have Judge Jim Earp talk about that with John Frankowski, who is a local attorney. And that's to liven up everything. This is more of a fun class.
So they can compare what they see on the TV shows and the law
and real life.
And real life. I like that.
Ad nauseum, I might add, on the TV shows. My goodness, there's a lot of that.
There really is. Now, the next one on October 18th, as I recall, your last term you had the largest showing for this particular class.
Yes, sure did.
Tell us about it.
We're going to talk about firearms law, and we are focusing on stand your ground law, and Judge John Murphy's the speaker on that one. And we had a great turnout last time, and I just like to sometimes keep the topic the same but change the speaker because everybody
brings a little different perspective.
Exactly. And so I'm excited about that. And also, I mean, I had set that schedule up before the Trayvon Martin and everything, so I thought, it fell right into place. So we need to know what's going on, what the law actually says, because it's not out there.
If anybody's looking to get a gun permit, would they get any kind of certification from going to this that they could use for that?
No. Just for informational purposes.
This is only for informational purposes. For any of those gun certifications, you have to go to proper authorities.
Okay.
And listeners to American Warrior Radio, if they think they're going to go to the class and be graded or handed a quiz at the end, that doesn't happen.
No.
And don't bring your firearm.
Yeah, don't bring your firearm to the courthouse. But what does happen is you engage the audience and you allow them to ask questions from the presenters.
Yes. I do give the speakers great latitude of what they want to do, how they want to structure the questions, because some topics you just work the questions in. Other topics we allow questions in the end. But the questions do have to remain general. We don't want to know any of your personal business.
Exactly. So anybody that's interested in finding out about all these topics, and you're also going to be covering dependency law and your area of expertise on November 1st, Social Security Disability Law.
Yes. I'm going to hold a seminar. This is my second time I did the seminar on Social Security Disability. On the last class, what we usually do is the last half hour, I bring some cookies and sodas, so we can mingle a little.
Graduation ceremony.
Yeah, sort of.
Hey, some more free stuff and actually, I had highlighted dependency law and Social Security disability law as being the two that are probably most closely related in function and information to what goes on with VA disability claims.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Very important stuff. Folks, that is the Space Coast Community Law School. We have been speaking with Britta Hawkins, who engineered, and really you're the founder of the entire SCCLS, right?
Yes.
Website one more time.
The website is SCCLS.com.
Okay, you can find all the information. You want to register early so that you can be included in the classes, but if you show up And there's seats available. You can still get
Oh,
in.
absolutely. The jury assembly room is rather large, so we can hold a big crowd.
Well, Britta, thank you so much for spending some time with us today on American Warrior Radio. Much success. I know I'm going to be there at several of the classes, and I hope all of our listeners will too, because it's free.
It's free.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Thank you again so much. Folks, stick with us here on American Warrior Radio. We'll be right back with more.